Peace, peace, peace. Peace to the family, peace, love, and light. Welcome back to another episode of Mineral Ministries. Lion Gates Ministries presents Sunday service. I'm your host, Pablo, and you are now rocking with the best. Let me just give you some context. You are hearing a chant, Om Mani Padme Home, and when we used to do Know the Ledge radio, we would open up with this particular chant, you know what I'm saying, at 11 p.m. This chant is a Tibetan chant, right? Nonetheless, the meaning of it, right? Om is the sound of the universe. It is the most universal sound, and it brings about a sense of calm and peace, right? And it's a purification mantra. It purifies negative karma, cultivates passion, it brings about protection, right? Om, again, is the sound of the universe. Mani means precious stone or jewel. This is Mineral Ministries. Padme means lotus, right? As in 144,000 lotus. That is the petal lotus at the crown chakra. And hum, it represents, again, the hum is once you hum, you clear out your nasal passage in your space. You create peace in your mind, right? Allowing for enlightenment to come in. So I want to cite this piece of research. It said humming for just 10 seconds increases nitric oxide by 1400%. 1400%. You know what I'm saying? So these are actual practices that trigger healing in our body to bring about a sense of calm and resolve. I don't think that that's anything that we can argue with. You know, religion, it could be very contentious about what is versus what isn't. You know what I'm saying? But if we're calling forward a sense of peace and calm and resolve, I don't really think that that's too much that we are showing up to argue with. So if nothing else, you know what I mean? I want this ministry to be synonymous with healing. I want this ministry to be synonymous with peace, regardless of, you know, whether we show up here to ask the difficult questions. It's always in love. I don't want to be disrespectful to anybody's religion or tradition just because I have the sensibilities to ask the questions that we always wanted to know, right? So that's why I wanted to open up with Omni Padme Home, so we can bring a sense of calm, a sense of resolve, a sense of peace, right? And, you know, we can leave with an open heart, allow ourselves to receive. I promise you, I will do everything possible not to um, overstep my boundaries and violate anybody's sense of self, sense of being. And with that being said, yes, we are streaming simultaneously on YouTube. So if you want to catch it out on the tube, you can tap in over there. Know the Ledger 44. You know, some people want to see it on the big screen. Okay. Oh, what a week this has been. What a strong this has been, should I say. I have been deeply, fully immersed in research and study. I've learned so much more. I'm such a better version of myself than I was last Saturday based on the things that I have um, access to in terms of learning. When I learn, I'm always a better version of myself. I'm always a better servant to humanity because I gain better understanding. And I feel that collectively, when we have better understanding, we're able to operate in the top capacity as servants to ourself, our purpose, and our people. Right. So I'm back with a lot more information, a better sense of calm and resolve. I can make a lot of sense about things that are happening, and that gives me the capacity, as if I'm steering the ship. You know, I want to make sure that wherever I'm taking myself and my people, that we're headed to the best possible place, right? To light, to enlightenment. That light on you? Oh, okay. Yeah, I wanted to light this in alignment once again with what we have been doing over here in terms of reading with the definition. Last Sunday, I read the etymology of the word God, and lo and behold, it meant to invoke, pour libation, and to light incense. Right? This was the etymology of the word within itself, because it is part of ritual practice. So, in order to set up to commune with God, in order to receive God, in order to talk God, talk, you should be able to set the pace and set the plate. And those are the things that are prerequisites for us preparing, allegedly, according to the definition, how we get into this whole concept of going where we're going, right? Yes. So, Om Mani Padme Om. Again, what a beautiful chant. What a beautiful way to bring in the divine. Let me light this up. You just get us a little water, baby. Woo. And you're free to invoke whatever you feel necessary to invoke. You want to call in the name of your ancestors. You want to call in the name of your deity. You know what I'm saying? You want to call in peace, or you just want to hum. You just want to ohm. You know, that within itself is a powerful enough invocation. You know what I'm saying? Some people, you like, we going to get right. Jesus is king. You, hey, do your thing. Whatever you feel is necessary for you to bring about a invocation in preparation, you know what I'm saying, for what it is that we're about to get into. All right. Uh, I'm gonna pour a little libation, a little bit of this agua. It's water in here. It's not wine, right? Because I still got something in there. All right. Offering. Libations are made. Offering is succinct, right? And we are ready to go. Blue, behave yourself. All right, I'm gonna behave myself. So I was doing some research, man. I really got into some research leading into today's episode, and of course, as always, it brought me back to Paul. It brought me back to researching Paul, because every way that I attempt to push, it always pushes back, and it puts me back to this place where it's like Spirit is like, no, research the root. Go back to Paul. You really have to understand this. So, attempting to explain to some of my compatriots or what have you, some friends of mine, that I'm like, Christianity is not a religion of Jesus, it's a religion about Jesus that was manufactured by Paul, the apostle, who started his mission in 44 Antioch, 44 AD in Antioch, which is like the border of Syria and Turkey or what have you. Jesus was a Gnostic, you know what I'm saying? Paul brought about this concept of Christianity as a full banner to bring in the majority of people who were operating in that region at the time. So you had the Greeks who were still into Greek mythology. You had the Romans who were still into what Rome, you know, what Rome was doing. You had Zoroaster. Um, you had a myriad of things, right? You had the Babylonians and the Assyrians. You just had so much going on. You had the Cometians at that time. You had the Hindus. You had everything, right? And if you think about New York City as a cosmopolitan city, it's made up of everything in New York. There's no dominant religion, even though they call it New York, but that's a whole nother story. um, Everybody's free to do what they want. And that's kind of like how Jerusalem was in the time of said prophet, right? Paul comes along and he wants to extend the tent. So he kind of brings together a little bit of everybody's thing and he creates this concept called Christianity. Now, when you go to the etymology of it, right? Because we did the etymology of God the other day. So we have to qualify ourselves to do the etymology of Christians or Christianity, right? Being that it's, once again, it's a concoction of something that the Apostle Paul brings about. We look and it says a believer and a follower of Christ, right? Professing the Christian religion, received into the Christian church, okay? Replacing Middle English Christian and Old English Christine, right? From a Western Germanic borrowing of Church Latin Christianus, from the ecclesiastical Greek Christianos, right? First used in Antioch, according to Acts. And we know that Acts was written by Paul. We know that Paul started in Antioch. So this all goes back to Paul, right? When he had found them, he brought them onto Antioch, and it came to pass that a whole year they assembled themselves with the church and taught much people, and the disciples were called Christians first in Antioch. That place got demolished 2 years ago in a earthquake right after they started the conflict in Gaza. Interestingly enough, right? Meaning having the man and spiritual character proper to a follower of Christ. Now, this is the official definition that they give you, but I was doing some research and it goes a little bit deeper than that. That I don't want to say that they're being deceptive, but it just goes a little bit deeper than that. So you look up a word called Cretan, okay, and this is where it comes from French Cretan, from Alpine dialect Christian, a dwarfed and deformed idiot of a type formerly found in the families of the Alpine lands, a condition caused by a congenital deficiency of thyroid hormones. The word is of uncertain origin. By many, it has been identified with Vulgar Latin Christianus, or a Christian, a generic term for anyone, but often with the sense of poor fellow. Yeah, Cretan. Okay. So I'm not saying it, and I'm not being facetious. I'm just saying that the underlying etymon, the meaning of the word Christian, is an idiot, um, a deformed idiot, a poor fellow, and hence the deception of these terms and this terminology, and the games that the Catholic Church has played when it comes to this particular religion. Paul was a vessel for the Romans. Many people think that, he was, but it's a Zionist Jew who worked for Rome, if you will. These things are deep. Jesus never called himself a Christian, right? These are political terms. So that's neither here nor there. I want to get into why we're here, and that is today is 10/19 on the Gregorian calendar date. So if you're familiar with what we do over here, we go into the chapter and verse and we chop it up, right? So we got to start in Genesis 10/19. And interestingly enough, right, where we find ourselves is where we left off. And oh boy, we're starting in Genesis 10/19, which is the Hamites. The Hamites, right? And again, what we do here is non-denominational, mostly conversational, sometimes confrontational. We merge scripture with the Gregorian calendar date to see if there's anything that overlaps what's taking place in the world now, so we can bring dead letter religion to a living testament and give it context. So with that being said, let's look and see what Genesis 10:19 says. The Arvadites, the Zemarites, and the Hamathites. Later, the Canaanite clans were scattered. And the borders of Canaan extended from Sidon towards Gerar as far as Gaza, and then towards Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, and Zobilim as far as Lasha. These are the sons of Ham according to their clans, language, lands, and nations. See this, when you talk about ethnography, right? These are the things that people don't want to claim. If you're into this book and you identify yourself as being associated with this book, then you have to own up, right, to what comes out of this book. And Sodom and Gomorrah was melanated, right? Just like Goliath, he was a Philistine. The Philistines are melanated as well. So we just can't be so race specific to certain things that we take pride in one thing and not the other, right? We love to point fingers when it's shit that we don't want to be engaged and involved with, and we say it's them folks. No, them folks are not in the books. Them folks would be the Amorites, them folks would be the Hittites, them folks would be the Edomites, right? But you niggas is the Canaanites, right? With the curse of Ham on you. So let's go a little bit further and look at this curse of Ham. Let's go to the etymology of pigmentation, right? Pigmentation, coloration or discoloration by the deposition of pigment in the tissues, right? Discoloration. Look, the etymology says coloring matter, pigment, paint, figuratively, ornament, from stem of pingere, to color, to paint, right? By 1610s, in the broader sense, any substance that is or can be used by painters to impart color. Variants of this word have been known in Old English and Middle English, with a sense of spice drink or remedy of concoction containing spices. So this is what they call pigment or pigmentation, right? So you are the people of Ham, which is a pig, okay? And the curse of Ham is supposed to be the sin is in your skin. And when you go to the etymology of pigment or pigmentation, it says to color or to paint, right? Then you get into the whole concept of what black is, which is to blanch, or let's go to the etymology. Dark means pale, colorless, livid, one of pale complexion, right? Or one of dark complexion. How do you get from dark to pale? Who are these people? Right? What, this language that we are tapped into is so confusing. And it's almost like they're spinning us to spin us. Because the Old English black means absolutely dark, absorbing all light, of the color of soot or coal. And when you go to the definition, the oldest, the most proto explanation of what God is, the definition or the etymon that we cannot find in an etymology dictionary, because this stuff is written by people who only are identifying themselves for the purposes of them, right? The oldest definition of God translates to soot. Again, God is a modern term. That's not an ancient term. That's not a primal term. It's a Germanic term. It's very recent. And these are the things that we're utilizing to identify ourselves as an antiquated person. We're already shortchanging ourselves. We're playing somebody else's game and attempting to utilize the rules that they set in order to find ourselves. Their compass is off, and we're utilizing that same compass to find ourselves. This shit is crazy. And wondering why we keep hitting our heads. So when you understand, right, that they say that yes, Soot is the most ancient deity of all times, right? Soot Typhon. So right, so we getting now we're getting into primordial, we're getting into Typhonian information. And then you go from Soot to Set, right? So one man's God is another man's devil. You understand? Are you starting to get it? These primordial ancient deities, that when they do their research and they find out that they don't look like them, they always castigate them as the devil or the bad guys. And then they give you this anglicized version or this English Norse version of what these anglicized definitions are. And we running with this shit. Yes, God is a late term. Just like if we are looking at this book, Yahweh is mad late on the scene. All of these other deities are well established with complicated narratives. They've already mapped the cosmos and named it after themselves. And along comes Yahweh talking about these people are the chosen ones. And look at the condition of the world today, right? And I'm not even speaking about, I'm speaking about when melanated people had it. They were still late. And why is the Kibbalan called the Garden of Eden? So which predates the other? The continent of, do we understand as Africa or Kibbalan, or the Garden of Eden? Are they synonymous? Right? This shit did not take place in Israel. Or is Israel part of the continent? We know that. We know that. There's no such thing as the Middle East. There's no such thing as the Middle East. Yes, Yahweh definitely shut down a block and opened up shop. So we'll do a cross reference before we move on. This is Joshua 13:3. It says, from the Shihar east of Egypt to the territory of Ekron on the north, considered to be Canaanite territory, that of the 5 Philistine rulers of Gaza, Ashdod, Ashkelon, Gath, and Ekron, as well as that of the Amorites, no, of the Avites to the south, and all of the land of the Canaanites, from Meara to the Sidonians to Aphek, as far as the corridor of the Amorites, the land of the Gebalites, and a lot of lights. Let's move on, y'all. We're in Exodus now, right? 10:19. The 8th plague, locusts. So Moses left Pharaoh's presence and appealed to the Lord. And the Lord changed the wind to a very strong west wind that carried off the locusts and blew them into the Red Sea. Not a single locust remained anywhere in Egypt, but the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let the Israelites go. So whose fault is it? That's called entrapment, right? Pharaoh got hit with the RICO, but it was entrapment on behalf of Yahweh, who wanted to wash him up and embarrass him because of the veracity of the gods that they worshipped over in Kemet. How you gonna send your children to your stepbrother's crib, or you know what I mean? And then they feed them and clothe them and take care of them, right? And then you come and bulldoze the crib. Yeah, the ultimate gaslighter of all times. You hardened Pharaoh's heart. Pharaoh was like, I'm tapping out. I had enough. Take your people and go. And he's like, nah, son. I'm going to harden your heart because I really want, I really want what you got, my nigga. This is sounding more like Yaldabaoth than anything else, man. Right? And that has been my conclusion out of my research, is that we're looking from the Gnostic sense, right, at what they always said, that this is not the monad. This is the shit that Sophia created and had to tuck away because it was a monster. And it's showing signs of a monster. Like, we need to talk to God. Like, this concept of what people have been following and worshiping. It explains the world today. You know what I'm saying? So I'm freed up because I'm like, oh, I get it now. I get it. Get it. 1 Samuel 10:19. Saul proclaimed king and said to the Israelites, this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I brought Israel up out of Egypt, and I rescued you from the lands of the Egyptians and of all of the kingdoms that oppressed you. So it's almost like God figured it out and was like, damn, if Pharaoh let them go, you know what I'm saying? I'm not going to get the clout. You know what I mean? My aura is not going to look the same. I need to create this manufactured trauma, because the only way that I get them to show me love is by putting them through pain. Anybody had a parent like that before? Right? You don't ultimately end up loving that parent. You love them for the moment. The love is transactional. And the minute that you're reminded, the minute you get out of the thick of the bush and things, and you're reminded how they treated you and the trauma that they're capable of, you go back to looking for love in other places. I brought Israel up out of Egypt, and I rescued you from the hand of the Egyptians and of all of the kingdoms that oppressed you. But today you have rejected your God who saves you from all your troubles and afflictions, and you have said to him, no, set a king over us. And again, this overlaps with the news right now, right? Where the evangelical Christians have come about, elected a president and put him on the throne to say they want him to be their king. And the rest of the country is pushing back and saying, no kings here. This shit is crazy, right? And it's almost like if you could understand the dichotomy of saying the whole aspect of there being a monad and there being dualism by way of Sophia creating a false god, right? You got this king that can cut off your SNAP benefits. You got this king that appears to rule over you, your physical body, right? Where you live, your job, your livelihood, how you could travel, whether ICE is kicking your door down. And if you kiss the ring, though, right? If you wave the flag, if you're part of the gang, then we have to put, we're going to say this nigga's acting like Yahweh, right? But then there's a true God amongst all of that that's sitting back looking at this shit like, I want to see who's going to fall for this, right? I want to see who's going to fall for this, because this is the reason, according to the narrative, that I even sent my son in my in my personage into the world to fight shit like this. But the same people who have now they have sabotaged that narrative to work in their particular in their favor, which they're all backdooring one another. They don't like the Zionists, right? Both of them got two different messiahs. They're in a race to the finish line to see who gets there first so they can turn around and stab one another in the back to bring about their messiah, because two messiahs can't go through one gate. So the Zionists are looking for Mashiach. The Jews are the evangelical Christians are looking for white Jesus. Let's be clear, right? And the Muslims is off on the side waiting on the Mahdi. This shit is crazy. All right, God's son looks like us. Cool. Cool. And the only thing coming is 3-eye Atlas, and everybody's ignoring that, right? And yeah, and I'm sitting back on my Pope Pablo shit saying, yeah, those are the legions, those are the Ophanim. That's the wheel within the wheel. I'm waiting on that version, right? With melanated ancestors that look like me. Yeah, Michael is returning. Shout out to D'Angelo. His name is Michael Archer, and 3-eye Atlas is coming from Sagittarius A, which is the Archer. Look. The Archangel, whose last name is Archer, hopefully is leading the Legion, coming from the Archer constellation, or the center of the galaxy, which is Sagittarius A. His name is D'Angelo of the Angels. Her name is Angie Stone, which means angel. His name is Messenger. I'm just talking about symbolism, y'all. Symbolism. Okay? Symbolism. How does it feel? Saul proclaimed king. Saul is Paul. Shout out to Saul. This is the first Saul. This is the Saul in the Old Testament. Remember, it's two Sauls. And said to the Israelites, this is what the Lord, okay, we did that. But today you have rejected your God who saved you from all of your troubles and afflictions, and you have said to him, no, set a king over us. Now, therefore, present yourselves before the Lord by your tribes and clans. Thus Samuel had all of the tribes of Israel come forward, and the tribe of Benjamin was selected, right? I really hope that I'm not hurting nobody's feelings. It's not my intention. 2 Samuels, David defeats Ammon and Aram. But the Arameans fled before Israel, and David killed 700 charioteers and 40,000 foot soldiers. He also struck down Shobach, the commander of the army, who died there. When all of the kings who were subject to Hadadezer saw that they had been defeated by Israel, they made peace with Israel and became subject to them. So the Arameans were afraid to help the Ammonites anymore, right? And let me say this, like, and this is not, I'm not co-signing, or I'm not propagating or promoting Hamas by saying, like, those people have not caved by any stretch of the imagination. And regardless of whether they are the true people that belong there or they are interlopers, right? Goddamn, they're showing you how to not be a bitch ass nigga. And I don't know if the people who are running around saying, oh, they cosplaying, we the real ones. There's nothing that you have showed us in this lifetime that shows that you got the tenacity of those people. Them people different, right? You got to say it. Them people different. And that shows you the strength of religion. That shows you the strength of identity. That shows you the strength of pride. Like, this shit looks different in this day and time. I'm gonna leave it at that. Will the real Hebrews please stand up? Will the real Palestinians and the real Canaanites please stand up? Will the real people of Ham please stand up? Because Ham is a place of Palestine. Okay? So if you Palestinian, you're a Hamite. If you're a Canaanite, you're a Hamite. Is that true, my nigga? Right? Your curse was lifted in 2019. What you waiting on? What you waiting on? Solomon's wealth and splendor. We are in 1 Kings 10:19 now. Additionally, the king made a great throne of ivory and overlaid it with pure gold. The throne had 6 steps, and its back door had a rounded top. There were armrests on both sides of the seat, with a lion standing beside each armrest. Nigga was balling. 12 lions stood on the 6 steps, one at either end of each step. Nothing like this had ever been made for any kingdom. Nigga had a lot of time on his hand, right? And according to, like, Solomon wouldn't make it into Jesus's kingdom. Did you ever think about that? Right? By the criteria that Jesus laid, right? The Gnostic version, the original version, Solomon wouldn't make it nowhere near the kingdom. Right? So is this the reason that the gateways to all secret societies, you got to go through Solomon, which leads into Satanism and Luciferianism? I'm sorry, and I'm not stepping on the toes of Rastafarians and everybody else who be tapping into Solomon. But Solomon was the interloper, right? That's where the goddamn road created a fork. And I'm telling you this as somebody who, telling you, do the research. Shout out to Red. I think he has a monumental presentation today called Meta Yahoo. And I'm gonna lay some things out. I've been floating him some information. I might make an appearance today and give you some receipts. Right? Revelations 4:2 to 4:4. At once I was in the spirit, and I saw a throne standing in heaven with someone seated on it. The one seated there looked like jasper or carnelian, and a rainbow that gleamed like an emerald encircled the throne. Surrounding the throne were 24 other thrones, and on these thrones sat 24 elders dressed in white with golden crowns on their heads. So, in the defense of St. John the Diviner in Revelations as well, New Jerusalem is a gold city in a gold cube as well. The streets are paved in gold with precious stones like the ones behind me. So, would Jesus be there? Or is Jesus only in sackcloth on earth, but the niggas balling in heaven? Solomon definitely had the Kabbalah. And the seals of Solomon, which lead to the Goetia, right? And those sigils are underlying and undercurrent these computers that we're on right now. I'm trying to tell you. Let's go to 2 Kings 10:19. And I grew up in the dance hall, so this is hard for me, y'all. Saying anything that's not glorifying to Solomon. I sound to myself like I'm like a traitor. 2 Kings 10:19. Jehu kills the priest of Baal. Right? We got to talk about Baal at some point. Balling. Got to talk about Baal. Right? Then Jehu brought all of the people together and said, Ahab served Baal a little, but Jehu will serve him a lot. Now, therefore, summon to me all of the prophets of Baal, all his servants and all of his priests. See that no one is missing, for I have a great sacrifice for Baal. Whoever is missing will not live. But Jehu was acting deceptively in order to destroy the servants of Baal. And Jehu commanded, proclaim a solemn assembly for Baal. So they announced it. Right? Then we go to a cross-reference of this is 1 Kings 18:19. Now summon all of Israel to meet me on Mount Carmel, along with 450 prophets of Baal and the 400 prophets of Asherah who eat at Jezebel's table. That's a lot. So Ahab summoned all of the Israelites and assembled the prophets on Mount Carmel. Then Elijah approached all of the people and said, how long will you waver between two opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal is God, follow him. But the people did not answer a word. And unfortunately, that's where we're at, stuck as a people with Baal representing ultimately what Solomon becomes, balling out of control, the Diddy factor type shit, right? It's either this or it's that. Like you either as Christians prescribing to a life of poverty to follow your prophet in sackcloth, my nigga, or the Pope wears Prada. Which one is it? Which one is it? Right? Because it goes down to the you can't serve two master thing. And Baal is balling right now. So the president made $1 billion off of crypto. The president made $1 billion off of crypto and he's cutting snap. Like, come on, y'all. What are we doing? What are we doing? Oh man. Can we see it? Can't see it. It's too much for us. All right. The kingdom divided. 2 Chronicles 10:19. When King Rehoboam set out to Hadoram, who was in charge of the forced labor, but the Israelites stoned him to death. And King Rehoboam mounted his chariot in haste and escaped to Jerusalem. So to this day, Israel has been in rebellion against the house of David. So to this day, Israel has been in rebellion to the house of David. So, which leads me to ask, and I need some insight on this: is Jerusalem and Judah the same house? Right? Is there a difference? So when we speak about the Solomonic line, when we speak about the Davidic line, when we speak about them going into the Coptics, when we think about Ethiopia, but then we think about the throne in Britain, who create the Zionists, who are tapped in with the evangelicals, right? You're speaking about two very distinct lines to show up, right? Who's zooming who? Abraham father to Nimrod days in Iraq, because Abraham himself comes from Chaldea. So he's Chaldean, he's Babylonian. So this throws the whole conversation into flux, my nigga. He was not a Hebrew. And that's not, I'm not being facetious, and I'm not mincing my words in terms of, I don't have to like bend the words to just make the, we know that Abram, who becomes Abraham, is from Chaldea, which is modern day Iraq, which was Babylon then, right? Which one of these niggas is Babylonian, right? And Babylon is not the white folk, that's niggers. Just like Goliath was, if we're being technical, right? You the good guy and the bad guy in this narrative. You're the problem and the solution. And you're pointing fingers at a latecomer that you created out of the caves, who's washing you niggas up because you got your backs turned to him, right? Focusing on the wrong people. And the underlying undercurrent is this confusion, just the problem all along. Two people can't sit on the same throne. That was the watch the throne issue. The nigga, which one was it, Jay or Yay? Because two niggas can't sit on one throne, and the throne is Virgo. So that was Beyonce. She's the throne. That went over your heads too. Ezra 10:19. Those guilty of intermarriage. Amongst the descendants of the priests who had married foreign women were found these descendants of Jeshua, son of Jozadak, and his brothers, Mayashik, Eleazar, Jarib, and Jedaliah, right? They pledged to send their wives away, and for their guilt, they presented a ram from the flock as a guilt offering. So they sacrificed a ram and gave that up as an offering, right? And when we think about this in terms of the intermarrying, Solomon has 700 wives, my nigga. And if Makeba was not of the bloodline, right, was his, because he didn't intermarry with her, he spiked her drink and put a seed in her. And that becomes Menelik. So is it an apostasy or not? Or are we willing to waive that because, again, we're prideful and we're saying, no, but that's where such and such come from. What's the confusion? Leviticus 26:40, but if they will confess their iniquity and that of their fathers and their unfaithfulness that they practice against me, by which they have walked in hostility towards me, and I acted with hostility towards them and brought them into the land of their enemies, and if their uncircumcised hearts will be humbled and they will make amends for their iniquity, then I will remember my covenant with Jacob and my covenant with Isaac and my covenant with Abraham, and I will remember the land. Y'all seen the land, that question? You seen that land? They showed you that shit on the news earlier this week when Trump was over there. You seen that land? All of this for that land? Something got to give. Right? Again, is it the land or the people? And if it's the people, are those people you, or are those people them? Because they're wearing your robe, they're bearing the brunt of the curse that was on you. Look at them though. They're holding that shit up. You still talking about slavery from 400 years ago, my nigga. They just survived the genocide, right? And they still busting shots. And niggas are still over here making excuses. And your proverbial curse has been over here since 2019. If your ass got here in 1619, if your ass been over here, then your curse been up. What you waiting on? What you waiting on? Right? Which one is it? I just want to know so I can position myself to be of service, to say, let's go. I came in late to the conversation. Some of y'all was born into this. What's the plans? 2 Kings 23:3. So the king stood by the pillar and made a covenant before the Lord to follow the Lord and to keep his commandments, decrees, and statutes with all his heart and all his soul, and to carry out the words of the covenant that were written in this book. And all of the people entered into the covenant, right? And my understanding is this is our covenant. If they're saying that the curse that you are bearing is because the sin is in your skin, then this is also, if this is the burden, this is also the blessing or the blessing, right? Can you make the correlation? They're saying it is pigment, which means to paint, but the root word of that is pig, and that's a ham, and that's where the curse is at. Nah, yeah. And then we on the field running with the pigskins, yeah. Yeah. Him. That's what the movie was called? Him. Y'all seen the movie? Did y'all see the movie though? Let's go to Job. Wait, let's see. Let's see if Esther got something for us. Let's see what Esther got for us. Nope, Esther ain't got nothing for us. Let's see what Job got. Job got something for us. Y'all see that movie, please. Yes, they spoke Aramaic, not Hebrew. So keep in mind that Mary and Joseph both say Jesus is not the son of Joseph. Right. So this, and again, I don't want to get too facetious with you about the different derivations of people's interpretation of scripture, but because of the Reformation and the Protestants, there's hundreds of different interpretations, right? And then you got what the Luciferians and them be talking about, and the secret societies. So they say Cain and Abel, right? One child was Adam's and the other was the serpent, because I always told you that Eve got knocked by the pimp who was the serpent. He put that thing in her. She was game goofy. So the same way that you're saying that Joseph and Mary, Jesus was not the son of Joseph, right? Joseph Wiz got smashed by Gabriel and put a seed in her and said that it was this one is holy, this one is from the Lord. It's the it's the story repeating itself of the bastard seed, and then Cain becomes the, it becomes the strongest secret society or the strongest fraternity on this planet, and that's the fraternity of the drillers. And then you can look in the Bible and see how the drilling got out of control in the Old Testament. I thought that was the first commandment, thou shalt not kill. So did they create an alternative reality by the original sin? because the shit got out of control and they're playing by a whole different set of rules. But then they didn't even have those set of rules because the commandments didn't come until later on. It's like God needs to prompt these stories better. And it's almost like he's thinking about them as he's going along. That's supposed to, you should give the covenant to them in the garden. Job's plea to God. Job 10:19. Why then did you bring me from the womb? Oh, that I had died and no eye had seen me. If only I had never come to be, but had been carried from the womb to the grave. All my days not few, withdraw from me that I may have a little comfort. My God's going through it. Jeremiah 20:14. Cursed be the day I was born. May the day my mother bore me never be blessed. Cursed be the man who brought my father the news, saying, a son is born to you, bringing him great joy, especially if you was Joseph and that wasn't your seed. And he's like, my wife is a virgin. I ain't even hit yet. Right? Could Joseph ever embrace Jesus as the child? Yeah, niggas like, God did. Did Jesus ever get the love that he deserved from Joseph as a father if he know that he wasn't the biological?
Didn't he call him Joseph? Like Michael Jackson?
Yeah, like Michael Jackson called his daddy Joseph and he didn't call his father dad. Didn't Jesus call Joseph Joseph and never referred to him as my father? Right? How can God refer to a mortal man as dad and he's supposed to be the God of the world or the father of all? This shit is weird. Who's Joseph's bloodline, right? Shouldn't they have entitlement on this planet for some whole other, like, shouldn't they be?
Mary had a couple kids.
Yeah, James got washed up by Paul. Yeah, that's why he bounced at 13, right? Because he had family issues. He was like, yeah, I ain't listening. You're not my biological. He was like Tupac, you know what I'm saying? He was confused to who his daddy was and created a mythological one. Because he wanted his daddy to be the cool guy, not, the nigga with the regular job. He wanted his daddy to be a hustler. I'm talking about Pac. A son is born to you, bringing him great joy. May that man be like the cities that the Lord overthrew without compassion. May he hear an outcry in the morning and a battle cry at noon. That is, nigga, that is that negative talk that they be talking about. It's not healthy. Psalms 10:18, the perils of the pilgrim. Cain wanted to marry his own sister, so he killed Abel and got cursed. Where was the curse at though? Because he ended up with the better end of the stick. So where was his curse at? Oh, Joseph's blood is the seed of David. That's the confusion. Sandman season 2. I didn't make it past season 1. I'm being honest. Season 2 needs to be decoded. I got to get into that because Sandman is Morpheus and yeah, Netflix be getting real mixy with their seasons. I couldn't even make it through Interview with the Vampire. Shit crazy. The perils of the pilgrim. You have heard, O Lord, the desire of the humble. You will strengthen their hearts. You will incline your ear to vindicate the fatherless and oppressed, that the men of the earth may strike terror no more. See how these words tumble into one another? The fatherless. Exodus 22:22. You must not mistreat any widow or orphan. If you do If you do mistreat them and they cry out to me in distress, I will surely hear their cry. My anger will be kindled, and I will kill you with the sword. Then your wives will become widows, and your children will be fatherless. There's a lot of crying out of children and orphans right now, right? So one has to ask again, are these people praying to the God? Is the God of the Bible Yaldabrov? Is it a monster that destroys things that are pure, innocent, right? And what's the word? Naive. Because these children is crying right now. And they're being duped in the church by people of the cloth and people in government and people of power, people who have the same riches that Jesus spoke against, right? And then they're playing in your face in the midst of it. Proverbs 10:19, Solomon's Proverbs, the wise son. The one who conceals hatred has lying lips, and whoever spreads slander is a fool. When words are many, sin is unavoidable, but he who restrains his lips is wise. The tongue of the righteous is choice silver, but the heart of the wicked has little worth. Steve, right? Matthew 12:36 as a cross reference. But I tell you that men will give an account on the day of judgment for every careless word they have spoken. For by your words you will be acquitted, and by your words you will be condemned. And that's why people don't want to ask these questions, right? Because they be like, oh, Pill, man, you be bugging. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, silence is content. Silence is content. Sometimes you have to ask questions, right? God know my heart. Ecclesiastes 10:19, wisdom and folly. Now, hold on. Not only does God know my heart, God is my heart. This is making me ask the questions. God wants to be vindicated from this prism of ignorance that you got him in. He's like, hold on. Hold on. You just have to use your rationale to see where the bullshit's at. Okay? Because I didn't sign off on this. Yes, God needs man to help him deal with his imperfection, but his perfection causes man to rebel. You could, hey, see, I couldn't have said it better. Because I'm into narrative. I'm a journalist, and I'm well read, and the stories just ain't storying. It needs a lot of help to get along. Ecclesiastes 10:19, wisdom and folly. Through laziness, the roof caves in, and in the hands of the idle, the house leaks. A feast is prepared for laughter, and wine makes life merry, but money is the answer for everything. Do not curse the king even in your thoughts, or curse the rich even in your bedroom. For a bird of the air may carry your words, and the winged creature may report your speech. And now, because this president has passed this national security referendum, right? This shit sound like it was written by the alt-right. Don't speak ill of the king, or you're going to be labeled Antifa, and ICE is going to kick your door. Okay? So which one is it? That's what I'm saying. The book needs a lot of help to get along, because it be saying things that you like, was it right in the old, but it's not right in the new, because it's not given. Look, Proverbs 23:20, and this is Solomon's work. Do not join those who drink too much wine or gorge themselves on meat. Pause. For the drunkard and the glutton will come to poverty, and drowsiness will clothe them in rags. Right? You don't want to have the itis, because that's evidence that you got parasites in your gut. And they said that Satan dwells in the abominals of man. Not the dominoes, the abominals, the gut. It's parasites, right? Parasite. The shaitan is a parasite, literally, that dwells in the abominals, in the gut lining of man. And if the gut is responsible for the neurons, the gut has more neurons in the gut than it does in the brain. If they say that the devil whispers or tempts you, then what does that mean? That if the parasites are in the abdominal of man, where the gut is at, where your neurons are at, then these ideas that you're getting that are not your own, they're coming from parasites. And the parasites acts as a intermediary between alien intelligence. Okay? Think about it. These thoughts that are not your own are coming from a outside intelligence or alien intelligence that they call shaitan or the serpent. And if you understand the etymology of serpent, which one was older on the planet? Because a serpent and a snake are not the same thing. Is a snake older than a worm? Now we're going into revelations with wormwood and everything else that's supposed to come, right? What you think that those are the things that remove parasites out of the gut? Which one you think is older, a worm or a serpent? Let's ask chat. Go ahead, ask chat. I want you to ask chat. Somebody ask chat. And if we can show, yes, that a worm is older, and the worm or a worm is a later form of a parasite. Think about a parasite. A parasite is a microscopic worm. What's older, the parasite or the serpent or the snake, right? Who's zooming who? So these organisms that act as intermediaries, right?
So worms, simple soft-bodied invertebrates are much older than snakes or serpents.
Much older than snakes or serpents. Think about it. The worm was needed to till soil. So as soon as soil came here, came the worm. Where did they say the shaitan got cast into?
Snakes evolved from lizard-like reptiles.
Snakes evolved from lizard-like reptiles later in the narrative. So according to the evolution of this planet, according to science, it could not have gone the way that they said, right? Because the serpent came way after the garden was already here. The garden had worms in it in order for it to be a garden. That worm was an intermediary between cosmic intelligence by way of these parasites that are the transmitter of the things that whisper in your ear and deceive you. They told her, don't eat the apple because it got a worm in it. God damn it. And the parasite in the worm is going to be the intelligence, right? Almost on some psychedelic to be like, bitch, not only are you butt ass, but you got a fatty. And you know what fatties? That fatty gets smacked. And next thing you know, he's putting his worm in her apple. And now we got creation. And we supposed to feel a way about that shit. I don't think that that's a sin. You know what I'm saying? God, what a nerve of God to send us down here as eunuchs. You had a worm that turned into a serpent and you couldn't use it because you ain't know what to do with it. You know what I'm saying? Because you didn't know that she had a fatty or an apple bottom. Yeah, Mineral Ministry, Pope Pablo. Isaiah 10:19. Judgment on Assyria. The splendor of its forests and orchids, both soul and body, it will completely destroy as the sickness consumes a man. The remaining trees of his forest will be so few that a child can count them. Do a cross reference that will move on. Isaiah 37:2. Through your servants you have taunted the Lord, and you have said, with my many chariots I have ascended to the height of the mountains, to the remote peaks of Lebanon. I have cut down its tallest cedars, the finest of its cypresses. I have reached its farthest heights, the densest of its forests. Has anybody ever been to the Lebanon and seen their forests, seen their the cedars of Lebanon? I hear that they're beautiful. A thing of marvel. They made it to the Bible. The coming destruction. Jeremiah 10:19. For this is what the Lord says: Behold, at this time I will sling out the inhabitants of the land and bring distress upon them so that they may be captured. Woe to me because of my brokenness. My wound is grievous, but I said, this is truly my sickness, and I must bear it. My tent is destroyed, and all of its ropes are snapped. My sons are departed from me and are no more. I have no one left to pitch my tent or set up my curtains. Mm, mm, mm. Isaiah 1:5 is a cross reference. Why do you want more beatings? Why do you keep rebelling? Your head has a massive wound and your whole heart is afflicted. From the sole of your foot to the top of your head, there is no soundness, only wounds and welts and festering sores, neither cleansed nor bandaged nor soothed with oil. Sounds pretty harsh. Let's go to Ezekiel. I know that there's nothing in Lamentations for us. Let's go to Ezekiel. Ezekiel got something for us. Let's check this out. God's glory exits the temple. Right? He's off. He's out of there. Um, Ezekiel. Then the glory of the Lord moved away from the threshold of the temple and stood above the cherubim. As I watched, the cherubim lifted their wings and rose up from the ground, and the wheels beside them as they went. And they stopped at the entrance of the east gate of the house of the Lord, with the glory of the Lord of Israel above them. These were the living creatures I had seen beneath the God of Israel by the river Kabar, and I knew that they were cherubim. So this whole concept, this whole thing right here is about the third temple, or about the temple that they want to turn it to the third temple, right? Down to the east gate and everything. Ezekiel 119, right? And what if three eye atlas is the wheels within the wheels? What if that's the Ezekiel wheels? If in fact they were waiting on the second coming, right? What would be the trajectory? Because they said that the legions have to precede God first, so or have to precede the return of Jesus. They was just waiting on the rapture. Would it be instantaneous? How fast do angels travel? And what do their chariots look like? Because when they looked at this shit in the telescope, it looked like mad light chariots. There was accompanying this interstellar object. They said the interstellar object was absorbing plasma from the sun and not losing plasma to it. There's nothing like this that has ever been seen. And yet we are transfixed in religion. I'm interested in science because it's demonstratable. And we can look at it. They said that this shit is composed of a nickel that is only used as an industrial alloy, meaning that it does not occur in nature. They make it in a laboratory. We be interested in some of the weirdest stuff. I'm like the stuff that's most interesting and engaging. Revelations 4:6, and before the throne was something like a sea of glass, as clear as crystal. In the center around the throne were four living creatures covered with eyes in front and back. The first living creature was like a lion, the second like a calf, the third like the face of a man, and the fourth was like an eagle in flight. And each of these four living creatures had six wings and was covered with eyes all around and within. Day and night, they never stopped saying, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. Right? So lion is the Leo, calf is the Taurus, right? Third with a face like a man, that is to be determined. An eagle in flight would be Scorpio. Is it Virgo? Who was the man in the zodiac? Some of you astrologers out there, help me out.
The one that they don't talk about.
What cardinal sign? Oh, it's Aquarius. The man bearing the water barrel. Okay. Or is it the sage? Is it the Sagittarius? Or is it Ophiuchus? Is it Ophiuchus? You know, when niggas don't have an answer in astrology, it's always Ophiuchus. Is it Ophiuchus? It's Ophiuchus. It's Ophiuchus. It's Ophiuchus. I love y'all. But those are the cardinal signs that are opposite one another, right? Because Leo and Aquarius is opposite one another. And then Scorpio and Taurus is opposite one another. So the four faces that they're speaking about are cardinal signs, goddammit, in the zodiac. Ezekiel 119. No. Oh, cross-reference. No, we did that. Let's do it again. So as the living creatures moved, the wheels moved besides them. And when the creatures rose from the ground, the wheels also rose. Right? Wherever the spirit would go, they would go, and the wheels would rise along them, because the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. I'll say it again, because the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. So I am amazed to look at scientists on YouTube who are not theologians saying, look, I'm at the place with my observation where I'm saying that there's something living on that interstellar object, that there's living entities, that there's organisms on there, because it's not a comet. It does not behave like one. And if it does, they said everything that they thought that they known, theoretically, scientifically, has to be thrown out the window. And we have to write over every astrophysics book again. These are interesting times. When the creatures moved, the wheels moved. When the creatures stood still, the wheels stood still. And when the creatures rose from the ground, the wheels rose along them, because the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheel. Right? What difference is this from them saying that you have scribes with you? You have angelic scribes that have multiple eyes. If they are observing everything that you do and they're taking a record of you, then you got a wheel within the wheel that is moving with you at all times, keeping record, taking notes, making observations. You're a content creator, whether you knew it or not, nigga. You've been a content creator from day one. And you got a nigga trailing you with the camera, like how we do. Like reality has caught up to some shit that has been always going on in the ethereal realm. You've always been a content creator, and you always had a nigga trailing you with a camera. Right? Daniel's vision by the tigress. Again, the one with the likeness of a man touched me and strengthened me. Dude, and then they got a tablet, right? They had the iPad from the very beginning. Do not be afraid. And look, man, I just want to stop and say this. I was always the little nigga, and I think Red will tell you, and it was before I was even getting high. When I came across this book, I said, this is from the future. Somebody came from the future in the past, deposited this shit. And I was like, watch how they gonna have people game goofy trying to go and dig shit up, trying to prove something that didn't even happen yet. What if we're reading an account that's a future account and can't even put one and two together? They just got us spinning, chasing our tails. Yeah, that's why when you're about to ascend and your life flashes before your eyes, someone is taking or something is taking. There's a record that's being kept, and that record plays itself to you when you're about to transcend, right? And yes, it's being uploaded to the cloud, which is the Akashic records, and then they show you the shit. We have visual support. So in the cave of crystals on some Superman shit, right? When they're depositing, because you can store gigabytes on a crystal, right? What better way to do it? And then you take the shit out and pop it, bing. Saying, fam, they show that in Star Wars too. They showed it in Star Wars too. Daniel's vision by the tigress. Again, the one with the likeness of a man touched me and strengthened me. Pause. Do not be afraid. You who are highly precious, he said, peace be with you. Be strong now. Be very strong. As he spoke with me, I was strengthened and said, speak, my Lord, for you have strengthened me. Do you know why I have come to you? He said. Pause. I must return at once to fight against the prince of Persia. And when I have gone forth, behold, the prince of Greece will come. They got a movie called Prince of Persia, right? Mm-hmm. So all of this shit. Like the Prince of Egypt. Yeah, like Prince of Egypt, Prince of Persia. I think the same producer. All right, let's just keep it moving. This is all deep, but Ezekiel and Daniel all deal with dreams interpretations. They was hallucinating. They was on some of that good. And here we are attempting to make sense of a hallucination. And then they talk crazy about Chat GPT. This whole shit is about hallucinations. This whole shit is about dream conjuring. Whole shit is about interpreting hallucinations. These niggas was high. But then they talk crazy about the computer. I'm like, no, God hallucinates. That's the whole concept of us being here. If you want to go to the Yaldabaoth shit, that's definitely him hallucinating because he's blind. So the whole reality that he has conjured is based on him hallucinating. What are you talking about? But then they don't see the connection with the correlation with the computers. So he hallucinates original man into existence. Original man is hallucinating and brings about the European, the caveman into existence. The caveman hallucinates and brings about AI into existence. AI is hallucinating and is going to bring about a version of itself into existence. So is that not evidence, fractally wise, that this shit is constantly emanating and creating itself based on this original fractal? It's so much mental illness at its finest. Schizophrenia. Right? 10 acid tab trip. And then we're left shifting through the throw up, attempting to put shit together. Charleston White Brawl. Oh man. Retribution for Israel's sin. We are in Hosea. It goes to 10:15, which will be around the time that they made this peace treaty. The roar of battle will rise against your people, so that all of your fortresses will be demolished, as Shalman devastated Beth Arbel in the day of battle, when mothers were dashed to pieces along with their children. Thus it will be done to you, O Bethel, because of your great wickedness. When the day dawns, the king of Israel will be utterly cut off. Meta Yahoo. Meta Yahoo. No Obadiah. Habakkuk. I don't think none of these have 10 chapters in them. Zechariah, let's check Zechariah. Definitely no Matthew got something for us. Let's go to Zechariah though. We almost in the New Testament. Zechariah only goes to 10:12. That's not enough time. Let's just go to Matthew. We're in the New Testament now. We've crossed the rubrics, right? Now we're in the time of peace. All of the wars over all of a sudden. But these niggas was in Rome. But it was peaceful, huh? Sheep amongst wolves. Why they ain't had no smoke for Rome? Why we get into the New Testament and shit starts panning out? There's no more rebellion. There's only Jesus. And he's a prophet of peace. But he's in Rome. And they on a helmet. Wayne Brady is now a woman. What's going on? What did I miss? AI gave birth to replicants like in the. I gotta watch Stargate Atlantis. There's a lot I gotta catch up on. I gotta check that out. In him, I swear, one scene, dude has ball written on his head. I would not doubt it. That was definitely about ball. The GOAT. Matthew 10:19, sheep amongst wolves, on my account, you will be brought before governors and kings as witnesses to them and to the Gentiles. But when they hand you over, do not worry about how to respond or what to say. In that hour, you will be given what to say, for it will not be you speaking, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. Okay. Luke 12:11, when you are brought before synagogues, rulers, and authorities, do not worry about how to defend yourselves or what to say, for at that time the Holy Spirit will teach you what to say. That didn't work too good for Jesus. It worked for Paul. Later on, he was able to finesse himself out of the situation and stand on business. Not Jesus. All right. The rich young man. Why do you call me good? Jesus replied, no one is good except God alone. Nigga, if you don't motherfucker. You know the commandments. Do not murder, do not commit adultery, do not steal, do not bear false witness, do not cheat others, honor your father and mother. Teacher, he replied, all these I have kept from my youth. You know, anyway, let's go to Luke. Let's go to Luke. That first commandment, y'all, they broke it all through the Old Testament. There's a whole clan and cult dedicated to it. The illest fraternity, the first fraternity, spillers and drillers, the cult of raising Cain, the joyful return. So he told them, I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. Behold, I have given you authority to tread on snakes and scorpions and over all of the power of the enemy. Nothing will harm you. Nevertheless, do not rejoice that the spirits submit to you, but rejoice that your names are written in heaven. Whew. Mark 16:17 as a cross reference. And these signs will accompany those who believe. In my name, they will drive out demons. They will speak in new tongues. They will pick up snakes with their hands, and if they drink any dead poison, it will not harm them. They will lay their hands on the sick, and they will be made well. So this is the blueprint of the evangelicals, the people who literally run the country right now, right? They're evangelicals. They're premillennialists, not postmillennialists. They believe in speaking in tongues. They believe in, them is the niggas that on TV at 3 a.m. they hit you with the coat, and then you're cured from your disease. They lay hands on people's forehead and they get up out the wheelchair and shit. They believe in miracles, the supernatural. These are spooky crackers. You ain't seen no spooky crackers. You've seen spooky crackers, right? Who believe in this, that they are deriving this power from Jesus. Oh yeah, it's gonna be an interesting 4 years. Jesus, the Good Shepherd. What's her name? Paula Kane. I gotta look her up. She's something else. God, Trump's spiritual advisor to God. She's a 44 resonator too. Jesus, the Good Shepherd. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down for my own accord. I have authority to lay it down and authority to take it up again. This charge I have received from my Father. Again, there was division amongst the Jews because of Jesus's message. Many of them said he is demon possessed and insane. Why would you listen to him? Right? John 9:16 as a cross reference. Peace. Because of this, some of the Pharisees said, this man is not from God, for he does not keep the Sabbath. But others said, how can a sinful man perform such signs? And there was division amongst them. Right? He has always been steeped in controversy. He's always caused splits amongst people trying to figure his shit out, trying to make sense of the senseless. Peter called to Caesarea, and I'm saying that to say that once again, Jesus was not the progenitor of Christianity. He did not leave that as a dictate. He left what they found in the Nag Hammadi text. He was a Gnostic. He had a whole different approach. But then when Paul came and remixed it, you know what I'm saying, it caused so much confusion. There's just been confusion going forward. If there was a time when there was more clarity, there definitely isn't. That's not the time to be living, and rightfully so. Right? It's been remixed. It's been propagated for purposes of empire, Roman Empire at that. They called out to ask if Simon called Peter. It called out to ask if Simon called Peter was staying there. As Peter continued to reflect on the vision, the Spirit said to him, behold, 3 men are looking for you. So get up, go downstairs and accompany them without hesitation, because I have sent them. Acts 21:4. We sought out the disciples in Tyre and stayed with them 7 days. Through the Spirit, they kept telling Paul not to go up to Jerusalem. We in Romans. Romans 10:19. The word brings salvation. But I ask, did they not hear? Indeed they did. Their voice has gone out into all of the earth, their words to the ends of the world. I ask instead, did Israel not understand? First, Moses says, I will make you jealous by those who are not a nation. I will make you angry by a nation without understanding. And Isaiah boldly says, I was found by those who did not seek me. I revealed myself to those who did not ask for me. Talking that talk. Deuteronomy 32:21 is a cross reference. They have provoked my jealousy by that which is not God. They have enraged me with their worthless idols. So I will make them jealous by those who are not a people. I will make them angry by a nation without understanding. Doing one hell of a job there, buddy. Israel is a state. It ain't even a nation causing all of this confusion. Think about that. Flee from idolatry. 1 Corinthians 10:19. Consider the people of Israel. Are not those who eat the sacrifices fellow partakers in the altar? Hmm. Am I suggesting then that food sacrificed to an idol is anything, or that an idol is anything? No, but the sacrifices of pagans are offered to demons, not to God. And I do not want you to be participants with demons. Hmm. Now they talking. Now they talking, y'all. Right? So there has been this vehement pushback in the New Testament against animal sacrifice and old ways, customs, and traditions. And then Paul came along and he said that you didn't have to be circumcised anymore to make it to the quote unquote, upper room, that you didn't have to do that to be considered amongst the chosen. And there was a differentiation initially, specifically for reasons. Not anymore. Let's go to, somebody asked me to say it again. Okay. This is called Flee from Idolatry. And this is 1 Corinthians 10:19. So this is one of the other books written by Paul. Consider the people of Israel, right? Are not those who eat the sacrifices fellow partakers in the altar? Am I suggesting then that food sacrificed to an idol is anything, or that an idol is anything? No, but the sacrifices of pagans are offered to demons, not to God. And I do not want you to be participants with demons. Somebody asked for the etymology of demons. Okay, let's do an etymology of demon. And again, okay. An evil spirit, malignant supernatural being, an incubus, a devil, from Latin daemon, spirit, from Greek daemon, deity, divine power, lesser god, guiding spirit, tutelary deity, right? Tutelary deity, sometimes including souls of the dead, one's genius, lot, or fortune. Yes, one's genius, lot, or fortune, right? From pi, daemon, divider, provider of fortunes or destinies. From root, da, to divide, right? The malignant sense is because the Greek word was used with daimonion in Christian Greek translations in the Vulgate for God of the heathen and also for unclean spirit. Jewish authors earlier had employed the Greek word in this sense, using it to render Shedem, Lord's idols, in the Septuagint, right? In Matthew, what is this? Matthew 8:31 has daemonis translated as deifo in Old English, fiend or devil or duel in Middle English. Another Old English word for this was helknit, literally hell knight. The usual Greek sense, supernatural agent or intelligence lower than a god, ministering spirit, is a test in English from 1560s and sometimes written daemon or daimon for purposes of distinction. The demon of Socrates was a daimonion, a divine principle of inward oracle. Okay? His accusers, later the church fathers, however, represented this otherwise. So remember, Socrates was punished by the church. He was signaled out and castigated and destroyed you cannot have an inward oracle, right? Because you was not allowed to interpret word for yourself. You was not allowed to be the intercessor personally between you and God. You had to go to the church. You had to go to the church fathers. So, yeah, have y'all read the Damon Bible from King James? I did. Uh, Before King James wrote the Bible, you know, he wrote the Demon Bible. Did you read it? Okay, we could talk about that one day. We could talk about the Demon Bible. Deuteronomy 32:21. They have provoked my jealousy by that which is not God. They have enraged me with their worthless idols, so I will make them jealous by those who are not a people. I will make them angry by a nation without understanding. Tit for tat. That's our tit for tat God. Feel me? Sounds real corporal to me. Sounds like you got a body. Emotional, little nigga. 2 Corinthians 10:18. Paul's apostolic authority. And again, you know, they said that the lesser, the emotions, jealousy, hate, and envy, these are the lesser demons, right? This is the evidence of demons or possession. When you're jealous, you're envious, and you engage in hate. How can Yahweh be doing these things if you are divine light? Where does jealousy come from? Right? How can jealousy live in a ever flourishing heart of light and love? That's interesting. 2 Corinthians 10:18. Rather, let him who boasts boast in the Lord. For it is not the one who commends himself who is approved, but the one whom the Lord commends. Jeremiah 9:23 for cross-reference, for some context. This is what the Lord says: let not the wise man boast in his wisdom, nor the strong man in his strength, nor the wealthy man in his riches, but let him who boasts boast in this, that he understands and knows me, that I am the Lord, who exercises loving devotion, justice, and righteousness on the earth. For I delight in these things, declares the Lord. And when I'm not doing that, I'm being jealous. I just put that in. Oh. See, look, this is where another controversy is at. Romans 2:29. Once again, it's got to be Paul. No, a man is a Jew because he is one inwardly, and circumcision is a matter of the heart by the Spirit, not by the written code. Such a man's praise does not come from men, but from God. Right? They was really trying to save the cutting of the serpent. Sorry. My way's looking at me crazy. Thessalonians 2. Come on. Hebrews is such a book out of place in the New Testament. Hebrews is a straight up Old Testament sounding book, and it sits in the bottom of the New Testament. I got to do some more research into it because it sounds very abrupt where it's placed. A call to persevere. This is Hebrews 10:19, and where these have been forgiven, an offering for sin is no longer needed. Therefore, brothers, since we have confidence to enter the most holy place by the blood of Jesus, by the new and living way open for us through the curtain of his body. Let's go further. Let's see what it says. By the curtain of his body, and since we have a great priest over the house of God, let us draw near with a sincere heart and full assurance of faith, having our hearts sprinkled to cleanse us from a guilty conscience, and our bodies washed with pure water. So they're replacing blood sacrifice as the needed prerequisite in order for one to enter into communion with God, right? And they're saying, no, instead, you are showered with the um, eternal springs of life provided by Christ. Okay. You said they cut me on IG. Am I not still on IG? IG, we still here, y'all? Look, IG, before y'all leave, please know that you can make a love offering at the link at the bottom. You can tithe your 10%. We're going to pass the plate. We're going to pass the digital plate. Hallelujah. All right. Give it a minute. Get a breather. Let me get a sip. We almost finished. Whew. 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 It's a love offering for what? You ain't never been to church? I'm gonna put that video up from Christ Consciousness a little later today. Pass the plate. Put that up. A call to persevere. Let's do a cross reference. Oh, we did a cross reference. Therefore, since we have a great high priest who has passed through the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God, let us hold firmly to what we profess. For we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but we have one who was tempted in every way that we are, yet was without sin. Let us then approach the throne of grace with confidence so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. So the understanding would be, since he shed blood that was sinless and pure with no blemishes, you should be covered in that blood. You remember, like, picture Passion of Christ. Picture that covering of blood, right? You should be doused in that same blood by your Savior, because that blood is purer than any other animal blood that would make it as a sacrifice, right? Hence the fact that you eat, according to Paul, who put the Eucharist in, okay, the wafer with the wine, right? The body and the blood.
Eating and drinking Jesus, and you still want to come. What is it?
Nigga said, he said, no red pills here. You just talking. I ain't cooking. I'm just cooking. Nigga said, tithe for what, nigga? You just up here talking, nigga. You're not dropping red pills. My name Blue Pill. Okay? My name is Blue Pill. Pass the plate. God damn. Shit. I gotta do the red pill shit too. Shout out to Red. The marriage of the Lamb. So now we in Revelations 19:10, because there's no 10:19. So I invert when I don't have, right, what I need to finish, and I'm not stretching the imagination. Then the marriage of the Lamb. Then the angel told me to write, blessed are those who are invited to the marriage supper of the Lamb. And he said to me, these are the true words of God. So I fell at his feet to worship him. Get up. But he told me, do not do that. I am a fellow servant with you and your brothers who rely on the testimony of Jesus. Worship God, for the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. Then I saw heaven standing open, and there before me was a white horse. And the rider is called Faithful and True. With righteousness, he judges and wages war. How interesting that we would conclude at this particular reading, right, when they were speaking about the fulfilling or the concocting of the fulfilling of prophecy, with Trump being, he's given about 30 different signs of being Antichrist. One of the last rubrics that he crossed was the white horse that he was associated with when he went to see King Philip, our doppelganger, right before he went to Israel, right? And he was associated with that pale horse out there in the UK. So how interesting that they would say that, him being the modeler for the what was it called? Nobel Peace Prize, right? But this man got war all over his hands. You feel me? Let's go in the Quran. Let's close it out. Let's make a cross reference to Quranic scripture before we close out here. Surah 10, ayat 19. And mankind was not but one community, united in religion, but then they differed. And if not for a world that proceeded from your Lord, it would have been judged between them immediately concerning that over which they differ. I think, hold on. If we're gonna go into the Apocrypha, which book should we go into? St. Thomas? Which one y'all want to go into real quick? Gospel of Thomas. Let's go into the Gospel of Thomas and see if we can get something out of the Gospel of Thomas real quick. (1945). Okay. 1945 is when they found these books. And it rewrit religion forever, but religion has not been updated to give it the respect that it deserves. Right? Has not given it the respect that it duly deserves. And it's not arranged the same way. Today's the 19th, right? I'll go into the next. Let me see. And then it's in blocks. It's not consistent because they found them in scrolls, and not all of them, read. Some scrolls are missing. But we'll go to the 19th saying, right? It's 5 trees in paradise. Jesus said, "Blessed is the one who came into being before coming into being. If you become my disciples and listen to my message, these stones will become your servants, because there are 5 trees in paradise which don't change in summer or winter, and their leaves don't fall. Whoever knows them won't taste death." Once again, going back to these trees and going back to these stones, hence the fact we got these minerals behind us. You know what I'm saying? I think that our work here is done. Almost reaching the 2-hour mark. Definitely want to say thank you for joining us on this journey. It has been monumental. I feel like we covered a lot of ground. Yeah, evergreens, right? Are those them pine trees that they be talking about in Tartaria? They talk about them trees that they cut down? Them trees that look like mountains, right? No, but evergreens is they're year round evergreens. Anyway, again, I want to say thank you. Appreciate you. I'll put this Cash App here for you again. My baby need new shoes.
You keep looking at me. Proverbial ethereal baby.
My ethereal baby be drip, my nigga. You know what I'm saying? My ethereal baby got the best. She wears bronze shoes, not the regular shits. She ain't waiting for her shoes to be bronze. She wears bronze shoes, and she got bronze feet. Furnished.
Your baby over there.
Daughter, my baby need new shoes. Yeah, my daughter. You got an ethereal daughter. You know, her bronze feet be growing. They grow every week. She need new shoes. And I buy the shoes in Roblox. Right? I buy her shoes in Roblox. You ain't money yet. You would. Yes. So we can we can end off our session the same way that we started with some of this good Omni Padme Om, because this is going to remove any, if I cause any stress today with any of this information that may have been received in a way that was not consistent with the things that you may have learned. I want to balance it out. We're going to take it out. We're going to give y'all at least 50 seconds to a minute of this Omni Padme Om. You know what I'm saying? So we can balance it out as we depart. Because, this stuff can work your emotions up. But I want us to all leave on an even keel. And home, Om, right? When you hum, what does it say? Humming for just 10 seconds increases nitric oxide by 1400%. And that helps kill bacteria, right? And oxygenate the blood, which triggers cell repair. So what better way, as a Mineral Ministries, but to emphasize that we need to leave on the highest note of love, light, and health.
Mani Padme Hum, 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 Mani Padme Hum. Mani Padme Hum, 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 Mani Padme Hum.
Oh, my bad. Also, family, tonight at 7 p.m. on Zoom, Brother Red Pill has another monumental presentation called Meta Yahoo. All right, Meta Yahoo. And as well, on this coming Tuesday, me along with Brother Sauce and the House of Sauce, we have a lecture as well on African spirituality. Okay, so Pope Pablo is going to be going and delving into other areas of expertise, and you can tap into that as well. All right. African spirituality reclaiming. Fly, hold on. God damn it. Yeah, man. On the 21st, we are deep diving into African spirituality. Okay, we're claiming the power of our hidden traditions, and you can tap into the link is on the brother's page, and I think it's also available. I have a link in my on my page as well. I got a post up. All right, and I think that we'll be doing a live maybe tomorrow. So tap in for that. Please do. And me and Akibalon, we got I think that will be later this evening after Red's lecture. We have a What's the Science episode, deep diving into 3R Atlas. And if we don't get that done today, I'll pre-record it and have it available by the time you get up tomorrow for you guys. All right, but you definitely need this, and I gotta share this information. Okay. With that, I want to say peace, love, and light.
Mani Padme Hum, 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 Mani Padme Hum. Mani Padme Hum, 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 Mani